welcome back to the channel. My name is Priscilla and this is Kim Dave, the one place where you get a front row seat on everything DIY, fashion and bits and pieces of my life, says Fashion School. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this pretty A-line dress in Ankara fabric and lace. I decided to add lace to the top half of the dress because it just made it more festive and fun. If you guys would like to see how I made this dress, keep watching. If this is your first time seeing me, thank you for joining us in this video. If you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you are an OG, you know, one of those people that have been there since day one, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's several seats in the room. You can take 2, 3, 10, however many you like. Just sit, relax. The tutorial is a bit long, but I promise you it's worth every bit of it. So without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. La 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 la. We will need the following patterns for this dress tutorial. I have linked a detailed video in the description box, so please check that out. For the center front, we're going to cut that on a fold to form the sweetheart neckline, and you need 2 pieces to go on each side of the front to make it a complete front panel. For the back, you would need 2 pieces each, so the zip sits on the center back. The other patterns you will need is the one for the floral lace blouse that is going to be underneath the padded top that is sort of the sweetheart neckline. The front we're going to cut in a fold, so we have 1 piece, and I've included darts in there as well to ensure that piece is fitted. The back has a V-shape cutout because I want an opening on the center back above the zip panel. So the next thing we will need is the skirt pattern. So I decided to go for the A-line silhouette because it's quite flattering in a lot of body shapes, and I've included darts, and we're going to need 1 piece for the front, so we'll cut this pattern on a fold. For the back, we'll need 2 pieces so we can put the zip on the center back going from the top all the way to the skirt, and we'll need 2. We'll also need sleeve and strap patterns. Because the sleeve is elasticated on these 2 ends, I added 3 centimeters on each side to ensure that when it folds in, it's still wide enough. As for the straps, it measures 70 centimeters by 7, and we're going to need these straps to fasten the back of the dress. For the fabrics, I got myself, you remember this Ankara fabric, right, that felt very papery in my last fabric haul. I decided to work with this one for this dress, and to go with that I got this floral cream lace from a fabric shop I had recently at Little Hands Design, and I love the 3D nature of this lace. It's just gorgeous and beautiful on, and it went really well with the Ankara fabric. I also got myself thin foam to make the padded bust line and black lining. Moving on to cutting the different pieces of the dress, I am going to be cutting out the lace blouse pieces, cutting the front on a fold and cutting the back pieces separately. I'm also going to cut the other bits I need, not forgetting to mark my notches because this dress has quite a few pieces, so if you don't notch pieces appropriately, you might get confused. So these are the number of pieces I have right now. I have my pieces for my lace blouse, 2 for the back, and 1 piece for the front. I also cut my sweetheart, ensuring I cut that on the fold to get that V shape that I want, and the 2 pieces to go on the side. So the foam is quite crucial because I don't want to have to wear a bra with this dress. Because I'm going to include a foam, it's just going to be something that holds my bust in place and just keep it supported. I also cut the pieces for the back, 1 for each side. The next bits I also cut were the skirts. I cut 1 piece for the front and 2 pieces for the back. I also cut out my sleeve pieces, 2 of them, and then I just cut myself lining using the same pattern of the dress. So time to sew. We're going to start out with a sweetheart padded bust in the front, and I'm going to join the 2 side panels onto the front. But to join it here, we would need to add the thin foam on the wrong side, turn it over, and then turn over the pieces you need for each side of the front panel. So once you have it laid down like this, I'm going to pin on the side for the right and the side for the left, putting on the right side of the fabric onto each other before adding on the foam on the wrong side of the fabric. So once you have everything pinned out in place and you take it to your sewing machine, all you have to do is sew those two panels all together, joining the foam and the material in one stitch. So because the foam is kind of thick and you need a special footer to actually sew this, which I don't have, just take your time stitching, pulling if you have to, not too much, just a little bit, to ensure that the fabric and the foam moves and they're sewed all together. So once that is done, it should look somewhat like this. So far, so good. I'm just going to check that everything is right. There are no puckering, no gathering, and all the dimensions are still correct. Moving on to the back of the dress, I am going to be joining the side panels together, leaving that center back open for the zip. So I'm just going to pin appropriate sides to each other. You don't need to pad up the back because it's not necessary for the dress design. So I'm just going to sew this using a normal straight stitch on my domestic machine on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, and this is the progress so far. I've created the two back panels and the front, but before we join up the side seams, we need to insert the sleeves. So this is what the sleeve piece looks like at first, but we're going to create channels for elastic on each side of the sleeve piece, and once you create that channel, we have to pass the elastic band through. So folding in that side by 3 centimeters, I'm going to sew that sort of side to create a channel before we pass the elastic through. So once we've sewn both sides and we have that 3 centimeter opening, I am going to use a safety pin to pass my elastic through, and safety pins just make it so much easier to handle elastic because you sort of feel the progress of the elastic. But before it gets lost, make sure you pin the end of the elastic on that one side you started on before going ahead to pull it out of the other side. So at this point, I had passed through both elastics. I'm just adjusting to make sure the gathering is even across the sleeve, and we're going to put it into the side seam of the dress. Moving on to fixing the sleeve into the side seam of the dress, we're going to fold in the ends where the elastic sits before we pin them onto the dress. So this is a closer shot of what I mean. So we're going to fold it in by about 4 centimeters, leaving about 1 inch on the top to ensure we have room to fix the lining later on. And I'm going to fold the same dimension for the top and the bottom, doing both on the two sides of sort of the sleeve seam. So when you put the back panel on top and you sew across, you catch the sleeve, the back panel and the front panel of the dress in one go. So once you've pinned down everything in place and you're okay with sort of the dimension and the fit of the sleeve, we're going to go ahead and pin on the back panel fitting that side of the top. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it in place, pinning the top to the top, the bottom to the bottom, and matching up my notches. So as you can see here, the sleeve is trapped into that seam, and you just go ahead and stitch it with 1 stitch from the top all the way to the bottom, and just have that sort of sorted and out of the way. Using a normal straight stitch on my domestic machine, I'm just going to go ahead and sew the side seam of the top, sewing both sides of this sweetheart padded bit. So this is what the first fitting looks like. It looks good so far. I do have little mistakes here and there, but this is what the sleeve looks like fitted into the side seam of the dress. And because you folded in the top and the bottom panel, you don't immediately see the elasticated channels that we created. So we're going to repeat the same steps to create the lining for the sweetheart top, and this is what the lining looks like. It's essentially the same thing. Join the side panels of the front, join the panels of the back, and join in the side seam. You don't need to put a sleeve for the lining. You just have one continuous piece that looks like this. So we're going to put right sides together of the lining and the sweetheart top and just sew across all the way the neckline from one end to the other. So here I'm just pinning up points matching up seams and making sure everything is nice and neat. So I'm going to sew with one continuous stitch from one side to the other. So this is what it looks like after I sewed up the lining and the sweetheart top. It looks fast, it looks good so far. I just have to go ahead and press, and I stitched on the seam allowance to the lining, and this is a trick that would keep the lining inside the top and prevent it from folding out when you have the top on, and it's just nice and neat to look at. So the next thing we're going to work on is the floral lace blouse that sits inside of the sweetheart top. I'm just going ahead to sew all of my darts in the front and the back of the dress, and I've laid them right sides together, pinned on my side seams and my shoulder seams. I'm just checking to see if everything fits okay and everything looks nice. So once we've pinned on our side seams and our shoulder seams, we're going to sew them together on a 1 centimeter seam allowance on my domestic machine. The next step is to make the straps that which we use to fasten the lace blouse at the back. So to do this, we're going to fold the straps in half, sew the sides up together, then turn it inside out and close off the two ends. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this on my machine, and this is where it's going to fit into the blouse, this extended bit right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew this on a 1 centimeter seam allowance using the normal straight stitch on my domestic machine, and just work on both straps. So this is what the strap looks like so far. I haven't pressed it, don't be like me, press your straps. And we're going to fold in the back extended bit by this much and pin in the straps. So you want to make sure you pin in the straps by a good deal. I would say at least 2 to 3 centimeters, because the lace is quite fiddly and you want to get a good grip on the strap. So I just went ahead and I stitched on a rectangle using cream thread so it doesn't show on the lace even while you have it on, but you have those straps fastened on. I went ahead and I worked on both straps. I gave them a good press so they look really nice and neat before I fit it into the rest of the blouse. So something interesting that you can do is, because it's lace, you have the freedom to sort of cut unique sort of necklines that you want. And I just went ahead and cut up a new neckline. I just made something that looked asymmetric and cool, and it sort of neatened up the neckline of the dress. So I'm going to go ahead and pin the sweetheart top onto the lace blouse that I just made, and I'm matching up my seams just to make sure everything tallies up on both garments. So once I've pinned it up, it looked somewhat like this. I've pinned up the backs, the side seams, and the darts just to match up in place. So I'm going to sew both of them together on a 0.5 seam allowance just to hold them in place before I join it up to the skirt. Once we've stitched those two pieces together, it's time to take a look and see if everything is coming together fine. So this is what the top looks like so far. The lace sits beautifully underneath that sort of sweetheart top, and this is what the back looks like. The bow is just a very nice addition, and I've left the center back open for the zip. So it's time to move on to make the skirt that would fit underneath the top, and I've gone ahead and I've sewn all my darts, the front and the back, and this just takes away time from showing you how to sew the darts. And I'm going to go ahead and join the side seam, joining both left and right. So on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, I'm going to go ahead and sew together the side seams of the skirt, and once I'm done doing that, I'm going to overlock the side and hem seams of the skirt. So once that is done, I'm going to repeat the same process and make the skirt lining dash, join up the darts, join the side seam, and overlock the side and hem. So I've pinned together my lining and my main skirt along the waistline. So I know once I take this and I bring the top and I pin them together, it's just with one continuous stitch that would join the top and the bottom part of the dress together. So I've gone ahead and I have pinned my skirt with its lining, and I'm going to join it to the top. Once I'm done pinning the top to the bottom of the skirt, I'm just going to go ahead and sew from one end all the way to the other. So I'm going to be sewing on a 2 centimeter seam allowance because I want to overlock this seam a lot more inside to take away any excess bulk that it might have and just make it nice and neat. So once I'm done sewing, I'm going to go ahead and overlock the waistline. Just because my overlocker has a blade, it's going to cut off any excess bits, and I'm going to overlock the center back seam, which is going to automatically hold in the lining in place. So I've pinned together the center back, and because we've joined the waistline, it just goes all the way from the top to the bottom, and I've marked where I want my zip to sit. So I'm going to sew from the hem all the way to that point before attaching my zip to the top half of the dress. So I've gone ahead and I've sewed up the bottom and I've pinned on my zip, and this is what it looked like so far. Because the waist is a bit bulky, it kind of curls inside, but it's fine as long as the zip is sewn in place. So using my zip footer, I'm going to go ahead and sew the two sides of my zip tape to the two sides of the back of the dress, and just hold that nice and neat in place. So once we're done fixing the zip, we're going to fold the hem in by 3 centimeters to finish up the hem of the dress. So this is the fit of the dress right now. I quite like this neckline. I think it's really nice and it covers a bit of skin. The boobs are a little bit too tight for me, but it doesn't look very horrible. It holds my bust in place, but I would prefer it a little bit looser. So the one thing I have to say is I want to take this higher because this top bit is padded with the foam. It adds a bit of bulk around my waist, which is not very flattering. So I think I'm going to take the waistline like 3 inches higher at least, and that would end up raising up the length of the skirt, because that's how long it gets at the back. I've just pinned it up in the front to how short I want it to get. So I'm not the biggest fan of the sleeves, but I don't know, they're just gonna be what they are, sleeves. But that is what the dress looks like right now. I'm just gonna do a little bit of adjustment so it looks even nicer afterwards. After several alterations and fixes, this is what the dress ended up looking like. It came out really cute, pretty and fun, and it's something that I will definitely be wearing for a holiday party this season. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Please recreate it if you want to. Feel free. I would love to see your own recreations. And until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are. Bye.